What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got to talk about the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. I finally played it. I got some thoughts to say on it. I do want to start out, and I tweeted this a while ago. They gave me a code, so I want to thank Aspire, and there's a little bit of respect that has to go into giving creators codes for a game that is very, very troublesome, right? So I do respect that. I do thank them. Obviously, as you can probably tell, that's not going to impact what I'm about to say about this collection. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I wish I could say more positive things. I think there's something here. It really, to me, comes down to, is it worth putting any kind of money into it? Now, granted, they gave it to me for free. So for other people, or even for myself in an alternate universe, is it worth putting money into it? And to start out, I cannot rationalize getting this game and paying money for it. There is something there. The single-player stuff is largely there, although because of all the bugs and glitches, and I have seen some wild things, some of which I've experienced, some of which I've just seen online. And it's important to take all of it into consideration because you don't really know what package you're going to get of this game when you install it. I've seen things such as the end of a mission in like Battlefront 2, end of the single player mission cutscenes just don't appear. They're not there anymore, whereas they are there in the original. However, I did see online that before the first patch, they were there. They were there, and then they patched it, and they removed it. I've seen things with mods. Now, the mod thing actually makes me more and more mad the more I look into it. Look, does a casual person who doesn't care about like the outside world, which I would say is a large majority of gamers, just period, right? They don't really care what happens, for better or for worse. The mod stuff upsets me just from that care of like the situation. Not everybody's going to feel it, and I can somewhat respect that. But when it comes to what they've done with this mod stuff, like we knew about the Ventress thing, right? And they had an excuse and it was okay, but it seemed a little sketchy. Well, there's mods in this game seemingly stolen from people with absolutely no mention, and they're the wrong mods. The modders are coming out to say, hey, that's my mod, and it's not even good. It's an old mod. I actually had a new mod that fixed those issues, and it's like, what in God's name happened here? Another thing I'm kind of confused about, the Tomb Raider collection is actually really good. It is upscaled. Everything looks better. It feels good. They kept the classic while also improving it. Why is this a much worse version of the original 2? I don't understand. This is what Aspire does, is porting things, and they just did a good one. You know what I mean? And so I really don't understand how something like this can even happen. I'm going to assume it's rushing it. People are speculating because of the quarter thing, right? Like we're ending at the end of March, right? So it's like, okay, maybe they're just trying to get it out and get it out fast. Could it have benefited from an extra 2-3 months? Yeah, probably, but obviously it didn't get that. So those are just things I want to throw in those in the beginning because, look, again, like the mod thing, if you're not like paying too much attention or you're not online seeing this stuff, you'll never know. But it does very much seem like they just took mods with literally not crediting, and they took the bad mods, not even the updated ones that would make it good. And then, again, things like the single player cutscenes, just things are literally missing. So while I would say this, right, there's a couple different things that I like that is in this game, a couple positives, but something like the single player, which I would say is a positive, right, because you can go in and you can play this thing, all the single player features, which is not, when you think about like the value, are you going to spend $35 to do it? Well, you can buy these games on Steam actually cheaper. You can have them just in your PS2 and Xbox collection right now, right? Granted, people don't necessarily go backwards, right, with consoles. So in terms of the preservation thing, is it worth it to get it just for the single player components? Somewhat, because the visuals do look better. I would say overwhelmingly. Now, I play this on PlayStation, PS5. The visuals are without a doubt better, okay? But there's like screen tearing, and there's things like pop-ups or pop-ins are always going to happen, right? But the screen tearing is there's like flickering that happened. I actually captured it. A lot of these things happened to me in a very short time span. I got kicked out of the game. There was the error, and it had shut it all down 3 different times in about an hour and a half worth that I, captured for this. 3 times in that time. So once every, half an hour, basically, it shut down. So yeah, could you get it for the single player stuff? I suppose, but until they repatch it to add in the things that they accidentally got rid of, you're getting less of the single player, less of the good stuff than you actually do have. So like now it's just visuals. Do the visuals make you want to buy this game for $35? You're noticing I haven't mentioned one pretty big thing is, well, Alex, the multiplayer, right? And of course, there's been so much talk in the multiplayer. The multiplayer is about as terrible as you can ever imagine. I wanted to give it a chance, and I did. The issue is, well, a couple things. Number one, the crossplay really is going to hurt this thing, and I don't know why that was the decision made, but already, now I played this Sunday night, right? It's a Sunday night. It's been out for a few days, but, like, we're still within the first week. You would expect, like, and we looked at the Steam charts, right, in the past video a few days ago. The game's dying. The game is dying very, very quickly, and it's dying, like, 2, 3, 4 days into its life. So the crossplay thing is not going to help. And where I'm going with this, well, when I went on, well, firstly, the first time I went on, there were, I think, 2 servers there. I think something was broken with it, so I had to restart it. And then eventually, all the servers popped in. The issue is nobody's playing it. Okay, nobody. And that's not the fault of the consumers. I think that's the fault of the botched, launch. So there are servers for both Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. But the most I could get, in Battlefront 1, I think the most I got was maybe 5 people on both teams. And it was somewhat fun. I'm not going to lie. Like, it wasn't the worst experience. It wasn't the greatest. Like, I felt, okay, I'm playing in these classic maps and, capturing objectives and choosing, the different class. Like, it's always going to be special. It's always going to be fun just because of what the game is. But without it being, like, too many people, you know what I mean? It doesn't stand out. The AI is not very good, and I realized that by going back into some of the single player content where it's like, look, like hero assaults, or heroes versus villains, say in the second game, it's really fun, but the AI is like, you can take advantage of them pretty easily. Now that's, whatever, but when it comes to the multiplayer, if you're only having 5 people on each team and the rest of it is just populated by AI, it doesn't make it as good as it could. It's supposed to be 32 versus 32, so that's one, right? It's fine. It's there when it actually works, but is it worth paying for that experience? No. Then I went to Battlefront 2, and I tried out the multiplayer for Battlefront 2, and that, well, it was a different experience in 2 different ways. Number one, it was more populated. I got into a match, I think, that maybe had 15 versus 15, maybe 14 versus 14. Okay, so there was more people. It was an abysmal experience. You've seen, I mentioned in the beginning, kind of this laundry list of issues. The aim assist, the idea that, and I legitimately thought this, and I've seen comments to back it up, when you're within like 3 feet of people and you're swaying back and forth and you're trying to shoot, you really do feel like a stormtrooper because you can't hit a freaking target, even if you think you hit them. And it's very, like, look, I'm not a great, first person or third person shooter guy. Okay, I'm just not. But I can be okay, and I think I was generally okay in when I was playing this game. But holy Jesus, sometimes, like, the things that you see online of you just can't hit people, I can attest to that. The other thing of hitting and it just not registering, or you hit and then it registers like 2 seconds later, that's a real thing. I hit people and you wouldn't see the life bar go down until slightly after. You could fire at a person, you think you're hitting them, you think you're doing damage, then they get you maybe like a headshot from behind and you're done immediately. And it's like, it's not fun. I experienced some of those things in Battlefront 1, but the thing is, because it's only 5v5 and the rest is AI, you can kind of coast by and it's not a big deal. When it's like 15, when it's all mainly, right, human beings playing it, the issues with the actual mechanics start to show themselves. The aim assist not actually assisting you. The registering of the hits do not actually register. That kind of stuff really starts to show itself. And so initially, I was like, okay, I'm going to Mustafar, classic map. These are all amazing maps. These are all amazing, things. Okay, I'm going to Mustafar. We got almost 30 people. This is going to be great. It was a disaster. It was an absolute freaking disaster. And I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I didn't have fun, okay? I know a lot of this has been bashing, but let me say something just very, very honest and clear. Like, I try to play games, like the main reason I play games is to have fun with them, right? If I'm not having fun, and maybe it's something that challenges me with the story or characters or the gameplay is hard, but it's rewarding. But I want to have fun when I play these games, especially for a game like this. I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I didn't have fun. And that hurts. That actually really hurts. it actually made me want to play the EA ones, and I've never not liked the EA ones, right? EA's Battlefront 1 just didn't have anything in it. They launched it with like 3 things, and that was abysmal. But I actually really liked it. It's just it had nothing in it. Battlefront 2, I always loved Battlefront 2. Now, the loot boxes was one of the worst things you could have possibly conjured up, right? And then they leave it for Battlefield. So it had a very bad beginning and a very bad end, but I think the mechanics of Battlefront 2, like I think when I was playing as Grievous in Hero versus Villains, it's fun. It's always going to be fun. Again, the AI isn't very smart and you take advantage, but you think about it, but then I think, you know what? You know what I really like playing as Grievous? I like playing as him in Star Wars Battlefront 2, the EA one, just in the multiplayer and just the battle. It's more balanced with Hero. It's not perfectly balanced, but it's more balanced overall. The game made me want to play those. Now, there's a lot of value in the original 1 and 2, and I think there's something still special about it. Galactic Conquest, right, is always going to be one of the coolest things ever created in games. And I saw the Act Man said this. I've seen this online. Why in God's name do they not have online for this, right? Like, everybody knows, that this is like the most popular mode in the game. It was a big part of like what made it so special. Yeah, you're adding multiplayer, at least on consoles, the 32 versus 32 now, but like if you really wanted to push this thing over, you could add a multiplayer for Galactic Conquest. And imagine doing your world planning and figuring out where you want to attack. And imagine doing that with other people. Like, there was opportunity here to make it better. The thing is, and we always talked about this, like leading into it, at most you're going to match it. And I guess, because you're going to have all of the cut content and stuff like the Ventress and whatnot and maps and being able to play heroes versus villains and the multiplayer, you're going to be able to match it, maybe slightly move it above because of the multiplayer, right? Okay, but now where are we at? Well, the multiplayer is in shambles, and even if they fix it, nobody's playing it. So the multiplayer is really gone. So now you have almost just a one-for-one thing. If everything's perfect, you're literally just porting one-for-one. Now, maybe it looks slightly better, okay? So you do have that. Is it worth it? Is that worth $35? I mean, I have Battlefront 2 over there. I'm going to get Battlefront 1 as well, and I had it originally. I don't know where my copy went, but I have Battlefront 2. Is it worth this? I don't think so. You know what I mean? And they had an opportunity to, I think, really make it better than the originals. I'm in for game preservation, right? But like, if you're not going to put any effort, and in fact, in some ways, you're going to make it worse because of what they did with the cutscenes and certain things, just the visual, again, the screen tearing and whatnot. If you're going to do that, you're just making a worse version of it, so why even bother? Then you have the mod stuff, then you have all of this jazz. It's like, what are you doing? You had it easy. You had a very easy thing to do here, and as people are pointing out, like, why is Battlefront so cursed? They never, the third game was canceled when it was pretty much ready to go. EA's one, right? They left it, and they could have made a third one. I think it would have been awesome. So I don't know why this is so difficult, but obviously it is. So again, I know I bashed it. I would like to say, in terms of like I saw Angry Joe, Actman, and some of your usual suspects, not like a negative way, right? But I see a ton of negativity, and I think a lot of it is very rightfully so. I will say, in the only side of positivity, there is something here. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say like it was a disaster to play that 5v5 in Battlefront 1. Like, that was fun. It's just kind of embarrassing that it was only 5v5. And looking at Battlefront 2, when there were more players, did I even want it to be more than 5v5? If it was 10v10, I might have hated it, right? The single player, there's still stuff of value there. So it really, to me, depends on what exactly you're looking for, but you have to be very specific in what you're looking for this to like achieve that, and that's what makes it very hard to recommend. I mean, I really wanted to like it, and like I said, I think a lot of the things maybe you see online and stuff, you might not experience, or you might not actually notice, like the mod thing, right? Like, how many people are going to know that if they don't actually look online? That's just kind of like salt in the wound, right? Like, I think a lot of people might not care, and I get that from the sense that they don't really have to care. Casual people just get the game. They're not looking online to see if they stole mods of a 20-year-old game. You know what I mean? But like, they did do that, and that makes it, in my opinion, kind of worse, because it's like, well, you only had to do one thing. You only had to upgrade it. A lot of everything was already done. In fact, a lot of the mods that made it better, you could have just, like, number one, asked them or credited them or whatever, just use all of the mods already available, the best versions of them, and that's really all you needed to do. There were mods that made multiplayer in this game. You know what I mean? So why couldn't you just... You really didn't have to do almost any work. Now, okay, I always say that kind of stuff, and I always, say afterwards, like, look, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a designer, I don't know the technicalities of what goes into making these games, but I know people have literally done the programming side of things and made the games better. And I know that all Aspire really needed to do was take those and put it all together, and somehow, they add like 30, 40, 50 gigs to this game as well. That's another thing with like the file size. I just don't understand what went wrong, especially because I know they're a punching bag because of the KOTOR thing on the Switch, and that was a big problem. KOTOR, being removed from them in terms of the remake, that was a big problem. But you know what? Like, they did Force Unleashed. I reviewed Force Unleashed on the Switch when they ported that. I thought that was fine. They did Republic Commandos. I thought that was fine. Like I said, we just talked about the Tomb Raider collection, remaster collection. That was fine. So sometimes they do what they're supposed to do. I don't really know if they ever go above and beyond, but sometimes they do exactly what you would expect that would happen, for these games. I don't know what happened here. I'm going to assume laziness / rush / whatever you want to say. But, I don't know. I can't recommend it, I'd say, for $35. There's something there in terms of people might not go back to their Xbox. And again, I think it is backwards compatible, but you might not do it. You might not have a PS2, and you might have Battlefront 2 on the PS2. Is the single-player offerings worth something? Yes. And I mean, ultimately, that's up to you. Maybe the single-player stuff is worth $10. You know what I mean? Maybe it's worth $15. So maybe you wait for this game to be on sale. But for the multiplayer, to kind of push it over and stuff, there's nothing that does push this thing over. So now you're just going to get it. If you are going to get it, you would just get it for the preservation side. You would get it to experience the single-player stuff again, and that, I think, would reduce how much you think it's worth. And that's just my interpretation of it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.